for everybody who's listening, when you think the world doesn't get it and you're right and everyone's wrong, you're in deep shit.
I've seen how that goes.
Right? Right?
Yeah, I'm very self-aware.
The GaryVee audio experience. Vayner Nation, what is good? My commitment to have interesting people that I want to chop it up with continues in 2022. In person now, we're starting to kind of get there. So we're in the office. Very creative dude here. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you a little about himself. But I have a fun feeling that this is going to get into some good stuff. Right before we started recording, he just said, "Oh shit, I'm getting old." But he looks great. He looks super young and handsome, and his ear. You wrestled. Is that what your ear is or no?
Jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu. I see it.
Jiu-jitsu.
Every time I see that, I tend to be weird about getting into fights. I would
hope so.
No, let me explain this. There was a little bit of Brooklyn. Where are you guys? Brooklyn? You were just Queens. There was a little Queens love back here on the production teams. They were giving, and it got Seth's accent even grew a little bit. Did you hear that, Dustin? Seth's Queens accent came out a little bit when he figured out Mike and him were from the same neighborhood. Yeah. So I grew up very Jersey, 80s, and got into a lot of fights. That's how we did it. It was different. And for some reason, I still, as a 46-year-old man, when I walk around Earth, especially under sports context where I know my emotions run wild, kind of size up people of am I willing to fight this person? And when I see the ear, I'm never interested in fighting.
Smart man.
When I see the ear, I'm like, that dude can do the shit that I have no shot in, because I'm going to try to get one lucky punch in, and when I throw it, I'm going to be on the ground because he's going to shoot me, and I'm dead, and I don't have the strength. The core strength is getting better, but not there, and I'm fucking finished. So anyway, why don't you tell the Vayner Nation who you are, what you do? Give me a little comic book number one, a little 411.
The origin story?
We'll get into that.
Yeah, I was going to say, how you got, man. But name's Brendan Schaub. I'm a stand-up comedian, podcaster. I'm the owner, creator of Thick Boy Studios, Thick Boy Network, where all my shows are based under that. And my number one profession is stand-up comedian. I tour all over. I just released a special, The Gringo Poppy, on YouTube on my Thick Boy channel, which was shot by my team, edited, everything.
Fully integrated, right?
Everything, man. So
how do you think about that as a young dude? How old are you?
38.
So as a young dude, how do you think? Yeah, but maybe not 12, but you got fucking 60 years on Earth. So
60 more? Mm-hmm. You're being generous. Name the biggest grandpa you know with cauliflower ears and full sleeve tattoos.
Well, that's what what every grandpa's going to look like in 60 years.
At my size, I'm like a Great Dane, dude.
No. Don't
I
give me
run
this
hard,
shit.
Man.
Do you have the mindset of I'm going to go in my 60s, so fucking go hard?
I don't think I have that mindset. I think I'm realistic. I do take care of myself.
Modern medicine's insane, bro.
I'm hoping
the shit that everybody used to die from. Yeah, it's hard. It's harder to die from. They just know how to do shit now.
True. The lifespan is extending.
It grows every fucking day. And now they're getting into some weird ass shit. I feel, do you know what my biggest fear on Earth is? That in 9 years I'm gonna wake up and there's breaking news everywhere, and they're like, we figured it out, and in 9 years I'll be 55. So we figured it out, and if you're under 42, you can live forever. I'm gonna be so pissed.
So pissed.
So pissed. I'm gonna be like, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's gonna be super sad.
Anyway, so stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy, yep.
When did that hit the rate? You're 30 and 46. So, was there a stand-up comedian, or was there a moment, or did that come later? When did stand-up comedy hit?
Yeah, it came later for me. I background is sports.
Yeah, you got great size.
Yeah, background sports. So played Division I football, University of Colorado.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
Real fucking football.
Yeah.
That's a real program.
Oh yeah, big tour. Yeah, we were good too. Yeah, when I was there, we were good. And then I had a cappuccino with the Buffalo Bills. Had a shot in the NFL.
Stop. Mm-hmm. Good for you. You DFA'd?
I was free agent.
Yeah. And so you went to camp?
Went to camp.
What year was that?
That'd been 2006.
Talk to me about so I'm in the business. We rep a bunch of players, VaynerSports. As a matter of fact, Mike McCartney is one of our agents. His dad is the legendary coach of Colorado.
Mike McCarthy, I know him very well.
So
yeah, he's great. He represented my best friend who's drafted in the second round, Joe Kloffenstein. He's the best.
Yeah, so he just came over to VaynerSports.
He's great, man.
We've been chasing him for 5 years.
You should.
So pumped.
He's the best.
The best. I genuinely think he's the best agent in football.
Agree 100%.
And I think you obviously know him well, so you know what we were looking for, which is like, I need a great agent, but I need a better human being because I can't fuck around with that shit.
100%. A lot of those agents, and
correct.
It's across the board in sports. A lot of those agents are slimy.
It's a
in
sharky game.
Too. He is not a shark. He's a good freaking person.
The best. Anyway, this is super fun. I just got to ask you, like, that jump, you played D1 football.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you had a real high school career. Mm-hmm. Where'd you grow up?
Aurora, Colorado.
So real high school career.
Yes.
To get to fucking Colorado,
mm-hmm.
you get to the place where even getting signed as a free agent post draft, that is like a remarkable football player. Like, I don't think people understand in the scheme of 8 billion people. You know what I mean?
And it took me, I would say, I'm 38. I would say recently in the past 3 years, it took me, I have kids now, and when they ask me about stuff, it took me a long time to have that perspective where, man, you did something a lot of people didn't do. Because to get there, the goal is to be Tom Brady.
Correct.
So by me not playing in an actual NFL game,
failed.
I feel like a failure.
Yeah, that's insane. And then
I
get it.
Then I go from there to compete in mixed martial arts. I was in the UFC. I was a top 10 heavyweight in the world. And then I haven't talked about fighting, again, probably a long time. I'd always shut it down when people asked me about it. Because, again, my goal was to be Cain Velasquez. You don't get to that level of just being like, I just want to be in the top 10. That you can't settle for that. So it's taken a lot of work, a lot of growth where I can look at my career in football, in the UFC, and realize that, man, that was a successful run. You did something pretty cool. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That makes me happy because I always think that my level of ambition and competitiveness, there's a good side to it and a bad side to it. And I think for whatever reason, the circumstances of DNA and parenting and the luck of the draw, I got lucky. Like, I want to be the greatest in the world, whenever I don't achieve anything that I'm like fully there for, there's a level of being content that I fucking went at it that really gives me a little bit of balance. And I'm very aware that not everyone that has the insanity of... I played basketball last night. Mm-hmm. I played once because I broke my foot at the All-Star game 3 years ago. I've only played once half-assed at the Garden the other day for a Coinbase event. So this is the first time I played basketball in like 3.5 years, 4 years. Last night for 2 hours. You would have thought this pickup game, my life depended on it. I wanted to win so bad. It was like bleeding out of my... We lost the first game.
You can't shut that off, though. It's just in your DNA. I can't either.
But to what you've achieved, like... I'm glad that you're at that place at such a young age because there are people who never like love themselves enough to go there.
Correct. Yeah. And I think also like I wouldn't change anything. Like,
no, of course not.
If I would have got signed by the Buffalo Bills and had a 5 or 6 year career, or in the UFC, if I would have became champ or won my last fight, which was 8 years ago, I wouldn't be where I'm at now.
Correct.
Which is to me my true calling. But I had to go through in my journey to stand up and being a headline comic and having specials.
Were you a class clown?
Yes,
yeah.
Class clown. I grew up in Aurora, Colorado, which was predominantly like a black neighborhood. So to fit in, sports was the thing, and it was a double-edged sword for me because I wasn't big as a kid. I was smaller, but I was really athletic. So I knew I could make friends by showing them how good I was at football.
Sure.
But my heart and my passion was Saturday Night Live. I was obsessed with comedy.
So it was
SNL. Robin, my mom would every Saturday we would watch SNL, and then she always had me watch Robin Williams. So
she loved comedy.
She loved it. That's where I got my humor from. And she introduced me all that stuff. So my heart wanted to be a comic, but I was really athletic, and it took me some great places.
You also, again, based on what I know about your athletic career, I didn't know you got to go to camp. Obviously, I know about the UFC stuff. I mean, that means in junior high or high school, you knew you had a shot.
Yeah, I mean, but again, when you're a kid and you're, I guess, gifted at football, the idea is to be the next John Elway or the next Tony Gonzalez. So my entire kind of identity at the time was surrounded to make it to the NFL. And I thought, if they just give me a shot, man, I'm going to be the next Tony Gonzalez. And then when you get there, I was young. When you get there, you don't have that perspective. my heart was broken. I'm a sensitive person. My heart was so broken when I got there and realized it was such a business. It was so savage because I thought I'd get there. You know, it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, man. I'm the lucky one that got the golden ticket. This is going to be great. It's not great, man. It is such a business.
It's hard.
I was not given a lot of opportunities, which, you know, at the time I had so much animosity towards.
Of course.
But that's the business, man.
Yeah.
So when your dream is to get to the Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, and I get there, and you realize it's this meat factory.
Did you get any preseason snaps?
No. I got hurt. I got hurt. Yeah. I hurt my hamstring. Went back home. We had they released me. We had some other offers to, you know, go to the Dolphins or
practice squad stuff.
Yeah, practice squad stuff. And then, I've always been realistic with myself, and I think my best trait, whatever it is I never just identify as that. So a lot of athletes, and you know this in the line you're in, a lot of athletes, when they get done playing or if it ends for whatever reason, God forbid, they don't know how to not identify as, you know, an NBA player,
right?
NFL player, UFC fighter. I never saw myself as just that, ever. Do
you think it's because you had this other passion? Do you feel subconsciously or maybe consciously in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm going to get to comedy somehow?
I think so because also in the UFC, I lost a fight and I knew like my surroundings were a little bit toxic and I need to make a change. And I grew up in Venice Beach as a kid. I grew up in Venice Beach. And for whatever reason, when I'd get to LA, it just, I don't know what it is. It felt like home. Even though I wasn't born there, but I grew up there. There's something about it. The culture just...
It just worked for you.
That's me.
That was your place.
My heart is there.
It's the way I feel about New York.
Yeah,
when
my
people
heart
are like,
is there.
you know, now everyone's like, you're going to move to Puerto Rico or Miami, the taxes and all this. I'm like, are you fucking out of your mind?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't live anywhere in the world but New York. Like,
I tried to. I can't.
I get it.
It calls me back.
Good for you. So you knew that was there.
When I moved to LA, I was a coach on The Ultimate Fighter at the time.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And so when I was getting ready to move, during The Ultimate Fighter, one of the coaches, Nate Marquardt, who's a teammate of mine, brought in a comedian named Brian Callen. He brought in Brian Callen, and Brian's trying to make the kids laugh, right? It's a tough thing. I was on The Ultimate Fighter. I was a contestant on there. I was a finalist on The Ultimate Fighter. So I know how hard it is for those kids. So they brought in a comic to make the kids laugh and raise morale.
Yeah.
And he's, kind of, I don't know, roasting these guys or whatever. And then so I just kind of took the floor and started lighting him up and having this fun. And he's like, dude, you're funny, man. I was like, oh, thanks, dude. And he goes, if you want to come to the show tonight, come on. I was like, he doesn't know this. So I was like, thank God, man. I'd love to see comedy. So I go see him. And then he goes, man, if you're ever in LA, hit me up, man. And he loves the UFC, so he knew who I was. So he goes, if you're ever in LA, hit me up. I go, it's funny you say that. I'm actually moving there next week. And he goes, hit me up. So I didn't want to tell my family that. In my head, I knew I was never coming back. But I told them, I'm only going for a month just to see camps and just hang out with my dog, and then I'll be back. It was never happening. So I moved out there, and then I was staying at my uncle's place, and I remember I drove out. I had no friends. I had no idea what I was going to do. And Brian...
How old were you at this time?
Man, probably 25.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, maybe 25, 24. I remember I get there, and, I don't have anything, man.
Right.
I remember I didn't have a lot of money, none of that stuff. Living at my uncle's house, rent-free. Felt like a loser, coming off a 2-fight losing streak, so... I just remember I got to LA and I thought I made a terrible choice. I'm crying, and then I'm like, man, I don't know anybody here. What am I going to do? And I remember I had Brian's cell phone number, and I texted him. I go, hey, I got to LA. I don't know if you remember me, man, but you want to meet for coffee tomorrow? It was like the only glimpse of hope I had. And he responded back way too fast, way too eager. It was like, yeah, and sent me the address. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I meet him there. Yeah, way too eager. And so I meet him there, and then him and I...
By the way, I'm also extremely eager. Like... all the cadence of what's appropriate. Like if I love someone or I just want to I don't give a fuck.
I think that's as big and as famous and successful you are. I think it's rare because there's this I'm the same way. There's this weird dance that people do where it's like an ego thing.
I know.
But when I text you, because I've been a fan for a while, when I text you, you text me right back. I was like,
see?
Because I figured I'd text you, and then, 2 days later.
And by the way, on the record for people listening who I haven't texted back, Like when you get 100 or 200, like sometimes you just get unlucky and you miss shit.
Yeah.
So thank God for this story purposes.
Yeah.
Because if I see it,
Correct. At the time. Otherwise, you're moving at a million miles an hour.
it's
and you just
hard.
forget. I know.
It's
and
hard.
You feel bad.
You know, it's just
Yeah,
the way it
you're
is.
moving-
Anyway.
So me and Brian meet for coffee, and he's like, "Man, you're really funny, interesting." And this is 12 years ago. He goes, "Man, you should come on my podcast." I'm like, "The hell's a podcast?"
Right.
And he's like, "That's like radio, but you record it." And I'm like, "All right, dude." So I go to his house out of his garage, and it's this little thing, no video at the time.
Yeah.
And we do the podcast, and we get done. He's like, "Dude, that's the best podcast. We have this weird chemistry." I'm like, "I guess." And he's like, "We should."
Was that you protecting yourself? I guess?
Yeah.
Or did you see it?
No,
You were scared to like.
I mean,
After
you talk
when
to so many people, you might be a nose. I think one of the things that one of the talents I have is I make friends really easily. So
good.
you and we're gonna be friends. Like
I believe
I know
it.
you don't have time, but we're gonna be friends. Like you got
by the way,
a friend. now.
the number one thing I fight for is relationships.
Me too. I don't have a lot of.
I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because I try to fight for relationships in whatever form, FaceTime, physical, like
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like
Yeah.
that's what I fight for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you weren't sure. You were like, maybe I'm just charismatic and he likes me. Maybe I don't have the skill set.
A little bit
Yeah,
for
that
sure,
makes sense.
especially to run
That
with a
makes sense.
comedian.
Yeah,
Brian,
yeah.
especially at the time,
Yeah.
Brian's big time
Yeah, of
comedian.
course.
He's on Mad TV. He's
Yeah.
on all these shows,
Yeah.
and so
Josh, you like him.
so-
I saw your head nodding.
Yeah.
In the background.
So
in the
he
corner of
goes,
my eye.
we should do a podcast every week together, once a week. And at the time, remember, I'm still in the UFC. I'm pursuing a world championship. And I don't have time for that, man. He goes, no. I'm telling you, once a week, it's an hour.
2 seconds,
Yeah. And I was like, and he goes, we'll talk about fighting. And I went, hey, listen, I'll do it, but I don't want to talk about just fighting. We can touch on it. But I want to talk, I'm into fashion. I'm a sneakerhead. I like
want
cars.
to be your full
like,
self.
I just want it to be like
Yeah.
a lifestyle thing. He's like, sure. So we start doing that thing, gain
Yeah,
traction. Like,
I know.
at the time, especially, there's like Rogan, Mark Maron,
I remember.
Corolla, and then us.
You guys were really doing it.
Firing the Kids. So that thing just kind of took off. And then remember, I was still competing in the UFC, but I realized there, like I had a knack for it. And then we started doing live Firing the Kid, live podcasts. And Brian would go, we're not going to sit down and talk like we do. It's going to be a performance. And I go, yeah, I say, that makes sense, man. He goes, and here's what we're going to do. I want you to start every show, and you're really good at storytelling. I just want you to tell a story every show, 10 minutes, a story. I can do that. And then, few shows go by. We're doing big venues. Like, my first time ever on stage, I'm at the Vic Theater in Chicago,
Wow.
sold out. And so those were my open mics. But at the time, the way he framed it, just telling stories, man. You can tell stories. And then I'll never forget, we're some big-ass theater in Seattle or something like that, in Neptune. And I go, oh, man, I'm trying to go over my story, man. It's like 10 minutes for the show. And I'm trying to go over my story. I go, story? He goes, oh, Bubba, you're doing stand-up. I just want you to be scared. And it clicked. Like, holy shit. And then he didn't realize at the time what that meant to me.
Meant
and I was
everything.
like, here we go, dude.
That's it.
This is
You
it.
found your home.
This is it.
Let's-
and then shortly after that, I'll wrap it up on
Yeah,
this.
go
Shortly
ahead.
after that, we do a live Firing the Kid at the Comedy Store, the infamous Comedy Store, which is like the mecca.
Yeah,
man.
it's the fucking.
I've
It's
always-
like the garden.
Yeah,
It's
I've
the
always,
Mecca.
I've always wanted to be
Of
there,
course.
man. And all
Fuck,
my
I don't even do stand up. I'm like, I got to do the Comedy Store.
Yeah, all
before
my
I die.
friends are there. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big feather in your cap. So we do a live Firing the Kid there, and it goes well. And I do my 10 minutes at the top. A few weeks go by, I get a call from the booker, Emily. Never forget this. Changed my life. She goes, hey, seeing if you want to do a spot in the belly room on Wednesday. You have 6 minutes. And in my head, and I respond back. This is how oblivious I was. I respond back. I go, oh, let me check with Brian. He might be out of town. She goes, no, dude. We saw your set.
Do it.
We want you to come here and do it. And I was like, oh, shit, the Comedy Store? So I go there, and that was like my first technical set, which was almost 8 years ago. Yeah.
It's awesome.
And that was off. Then again, you give me an inch. You just give me an
Yeah,
inch.
get that
and I'm
opening.
gonna freaking run with it, man.
Back to if you could have gotten some snaps in preseason, that which is probably why I probably burnt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I've been very hot on this new thesis of giving out roses while everyone's alive. Like,
Explain that.
I just see people dying and just like outpours and just like even like forget about famous people, Kobe, Prince, David Bowie, just like in my life. Like, you know, I got into the liquor business when I was a kid. A lot of people were 40 when I was 14 and, you know, or 70 and just watched people that I grew up in business. I was so young, you know, pass because they were in their 50s when I met them and I was 20. And I just, something that just hit me, which is like, we tend to hold in the roses.
How we feel, genuinely feel, yeah.
And I think society right now is very good at pointing fingers and razzing each other. And so I'm just, you know, I always think
I'd love to talk to you about that eventually, yeah.
So I'm very excited about just like giving out roses. So I have a couple fun questions for you on roses. You go to camp, Buffalo, or maybe it happened in college because that would make sense. It depends on how much time you spent at camp before you got hurt. Who was the best football player that you ever saw? Like, if I said, who's the best football player that
I played with or against?
You saw with your own eyes from the field, not in the crowd.
Sure.
So that means maybe it was in camp with the Bills. Maybe it was against the best team you played when you were at Colorado. Because obviously it takes it, you know, given that you played at Colorado and went to camp, you've seen professional football players play.
Yeah.
So if I just said best player you saw play.
There's a two-part question there.
Yep.
So played against that I saw in person, it would be 1A, 1B. It'd be Adrian Peterson, which I didn't realize at the time how he so we played Oklahoma when in the Big 12 championship when they had Jason White, Heisman Trophy winner, and then Adrian Peterson, Heisman Trophy winner. Then went on to win the national championship. We played him the game before. And I knew he was good. Obviously, you know, we saw film on him and stuff like that. And when I saw him in person, you know, you're talking.
It just felt different.
He looked different, moved different. You're just like, what in the
I get it. He's such a tank, and the speed.
And he's big. The speed,
real big.
And then he's agile, and you're just like, oh my God.
You're like, that is a star football player.
Yeah, I was like, that's
a
an
different
all-pro.
dude. Yeah.
But even that didn't discourage me because I was like, well, that's an all-pro.
Yeah.
I don't need to be all-pro.
I just need to be
on the goddamn team.
Yeah.
And then as
Who's
far as
1B?
Played 1B with someone who I played with, and even that's 1B, 1C would be Joe Kloffenstein, who was my roommate and best friend. He was drafted by the Rams. McCarthy was his agent. And he played, I think, 7 years in the NFL. And you're just a complete freak. Awesome. I mean, you're talking, again, my best friend, the worst diet you've ever seen. Eats Dunkin' Donuts every morning. 6'6", 260, shredded. It's frustrating. Shredded. Doesn't, you know.
Donuts.
Didn't give a shit. Just eats whatever. Shredded, and then ran a 4.53 in the 40 at 260.
Insane.
At the combine, he takes his shirt off. And you're like, Jesus.
UFC,
X-Men?
MMA. Who hurt you the most on a single punch?
Again, in the octagon?
Roses. Like
Roses.
Yeah, roses. With a little
Roses
humility.
for punch you in the face.
Yeah, roses.
This is
like,
easy.
Like
this is
real
easy
life.
for me
like,
to do.
You know, and you know this. I mean, you know this better than I grew up a huge fight fan.
Okay,
so
like boxing.
Yeah. And then so when I watched UFC #1 when it was a fucking, you know, because I was the right age.
It was in my hometown.
It was like fucking crazy. And then VaynerSports is also in the fight game. We rep Aljamain Sterling,
Love him.
O'Malley. Like we have Michelle. Like we have a real practice. Stipe. Like we have a big practice in UFC.
I'd love to talk to you about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So, you know this. Like what's funny about punches is sometimes it's the equilibrium. It's like the back of the exactly.
Correct.
You could get drilled here and be okay, but the back of the head catches people. Even I just did it to myself. I'm a little, like, you know, like so it's not like. It's just a weird. Sometimes it's just a weird thing. So
correct, and I think this might surprise people that are familiar with my career because, you know, Antonio Nogueira, Big Nog, I fought in Brazil. And you know, he knocked me out. But it didn't hurt. I understand. Feel it. But when I got hit by Roy Nelson, he landed a right hand. He threw a double jab and then a right hand. It hit me flush. That was the first time where it inside the octagon because your adrenaline's so high.
So high.
That was the first time I was like, oh, can't do that again. Jesus Christ.
That's
and then
so
he ended
cool.
up, that hit me right in the chin.
And,
you know, first fight technically in the UFC, not because the Ultimate Fighter, they don't count as real fights. So that was the finale. John Jones was the co-main event. I was the main event against Roy Nelson. And I was winning the fight. He lands that, and I was like, oh, wow, this is real, dude. You know, the first time I've been hit in a fight. I was like, oh, this is real. And then he lands the one that ended up winning the fight. But that That one didn't hurt. It was behind the ear, to your point.
Yeah.
Behind the ear.
But you lose the
But the one that was flush from Roy Nelson, yeah. Now, when you talk about roses, which I absolutely love, I would say that's one thing that I do well. I tell, especially close friends, every time, whether it's text, when we leave, I love you, man.
I do it too.
I love you, man.
I'm a big fan of it.
I love you, man. And it might be, for some people, it's awkward as shit. I love you, man. Like, what?
Did you guys?
Dude, I met you 2
I've done it
days
to you
ago.
guys. Like, was it weird the first time?
First time.
It was, right?
Yeah. But then,
You don't, yeah.
It's so like I've only in the last I've been doing it for so long. Like my college friends are like, because I like brought it up. Like they're like, you did that in college. I'm like, I did. Like I've been doing it for so long.
Me too.
But then
they
I
just thought I was gay.
But it was like, it's really
it's cool
nice.
now, but
it's really nice. It's
nice.
nice.
But also I think it's how you grew up. I think there's a lot of it has to do with your parents being comfortable with that stuff. So if you do it to someone that did not grow up with that love and affection, that's where they're like, Jesus, take it easy, dude.
Talk to me
I
about
just met you 2 days ago.
I get it.
Love you, man.
Talk to me about stand-up. Biggest, like, obviously it's such an adrenaline thing. It's like so cool. Like I've thought about stand-up, even though the way I give keynotes is very affected by Eddie Murphy and Chris Rock and especially Richard Pryor, who I was obsessed with.
And I've seen those, and this is your roses, is what you're so brilliant at, and what makes your favorite comic so brilliant too, is they can get from point A to B with cutting the fat. So it's very clear. And they can get there where most people can't. So if you look at a Nate Bargatze, you look at Bill Burr, Chris DiStefano, they're great at getting to where they need to get in the shortest amount of time with the shortest amount of words, but they're very powerful. And you, my friend, are damn good at that.
Thank you. Talk to me about the biggest, or if I said name a biggest laugh, because it might be hard. You've been like, but like that, like the first time you work on, like what I find fascinating is the work. I'm so improv. Like when I think about rap, I'd be like, oh, I'd be going off the top of the dome. I'd be like, like go into the studio, bang it out and be out.
Yeah.
Other people really write.
Yes.
Obviously the same thing with comics. There's different styles.
Yeah, big time.
Tell me a story, because this is a fun story for me. Something you really worked on and it fucking destroyed. Does anything come to mind if I ask you that?
Yeah, it does. Because I think, any comic, especially in New York, there's so many legends there. They'll tell you really don't find your voice on stage until you've been doing it 10 years. So I'm around 7. The only caveat with that is, remember, especially when those older heads started, they were doing open mics. It was tough for them to get on stage. So the amount of time I've spent on stage in 7 years, probably equal to most comedians, 12 to 14 years doing it. Because I'm super blessed, and I'm not taking this for granted, but because I had somewhat of a name, I was able to get on stage more than these other comics.
Makes sense.
So as far as biggest laugh, I'll have something written down in my head where I think it, and I have to learn the hard way, where I'll have it written out word for word, and I'd study that, and I'd do it in the mirror, I'd do it in front of my wife. Yeah, and you get out there and people are like, Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah. And then once I loosen up and I'm just going over,
you got the beat, you got the core of it.
Now, if you look at my notes that are on my phone or on my paper, like, it's just bullet points, and then I can riff from there, and I know the beats and stuff like that.
Makes sense.
So I've had times where I've written it out, and I thought I was going to crush, and I didn't, and then I'll just kind of go right field with it and have fun with it, and it, for me, especially doing it now 7 years, once I started telling like my truth, like being married to a Latina and having Mexican kids and being a dad, like once I start telling stand up that's actually relatable to the audience, I found for me, like I was getting laughs where I didn't think it was gonna be like being a dad, and
right.
like I didn't think, but that's what works.
Of course.
So when I have an idea and it hits me, and I'm like, I'm gonna try it out tonight. Whether it's at the Comedy Store and I have to follow, Chris D'Elia or Mark Maron or Louis C.K. the other night at the Hollywood Improv, and if I try something new and I get this huge laugh, dude, it's like it has to be like hitting a home run. Has to be like hitting a home run.
100%.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I got something, and I can elaborate on this.
What about acting? You think you have that gear in you? Are you interested in that gear, or do you think that's like a different thing altogether that you're like, whatever?
Yeah, I would never disrespect and just be like, oh, I can act. But I do think, I've had a small role in a David Ayers movie, and
Did you like it?
I saw the sausage was made.
Yeah, and it was.
My takeaway from that, I think again, I I think there's positives with everything. I was basically an extra. I played a cartel guy, and they had me in a mask on. I looked like a giant Mexican cartel member.
Yep.
And it's just so serious, and I'm not that serious of a person. And it was like, hurry up and
Was
wait.
it too slow? You just took it.
Hurry up and wait.
I did a show called Planet of the Apps for Apple like years ago with Will.i.am, Jessica Alba, and Gwyneth Paltrow, and I was the fourth judge. And like those are like big ass names, and it was on Apple. And I had dreams that they were going to buy Netflix before they aired the show. Like I had all these concepts. Like 4 people watched it because they put it on Apple Music.
Yeah.
But we did the show, and I just couldn't believe how slow it was.
Yeah.
I'm too much of a psycho of speed and
Do you think it's
efficiency.
a control thing?
I just think the TV has its way. They know what they're trying to get. Like it's a platform thing.
Yeah, I think you're right
know
on
what I
that. And I think for me, it was like a bit of an ego check too, which I didn't, care about because Shia LaBeouf's on set and all these big actors and seeing them. Again, the positive was I saw how good Shia LaBeouf. I saw him die in the movie, and they had to do it 8 times, and that was the only thing they shot all day. And my scene got cut at the time, so I'm just watching him. I appreciate talent so much,
Yeah.
and when I would watch him, it's like, oh my god, this guy
cool.
is so talented. And then David Ayers, who did Training Day and
Yep.
End of Watch and Fury, like such a monster, and Suicide Squad. I told him this, and we don't know each other well, but I told him this. I said, I've had some great coaches in my life, man, as far as being able to manage, like when it comes to football, like being a head coach and be able to manage all these personalities and, the offense coordinator, defense coordinator, and putting a game plan together. I said, you're the best I've seen as far as communication, being direct with guys, but also not being too harsh, knowing exactly what works with this actor and that actor. I said, I've never seen anything like him, man. You're a head coach. You're an offense coordinator, man.
It's cool.
Yeah. So that was cool. But to your point, yeah, the hurry up and wait, and it was so serious. I think it was like a comedy thing with my friends, which we could do. I think that'd be so much fun. I'd be interested in that. But I think media is moving where everyone has their niche, and there's these lanes, and if it depends, but if you can control the narrative and control what you want to put out.
Well, that's
And market, to me, like I take pride in that.
I was listening carefully to like, hey, I put out a special and it's like I'm in full control. That's very different than doing it on Netflix or Hulu or something of that nature. I value that. I'd rather have less distribution and more control.
And I'm a fan of yours. So one of the reasons I said that is because if anybody could relate to that and be like, oh, that's cool, it would be you, because
I have a lot of awareness with no massive distribution channel. It's been all done in the trenches.
Yeah.
Because I think the collective of the trenches, LinkedIn and TikTok and YouTube and podcast and Twitter and Instagram, collectively, if you do it the way I do it, adds up to some of the biggest distribution plays. It's hard. Like I'm empathetic that I like have good improv, chameleon, contextual skills to play all those channels.
Yep.
But it's cool for everybody listening right now. Like it's hard to play the game of distribution because you have to be picked. It gets diluted. It needs to work for the distributor, and that loses a lot of soul.
Correct. And, with comedy, especially with my background, man, being an athlete and having cauliflower ears and full sleeve tattoos, and I dress like a fuck boy, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I'm a sneakerhead. I look ridiculous. So, being this big,
The fact that we both have backwards hat and teeth.
I put on backwards.
Am I a fuckboy? Like I got excited.
I put on backwards just so we look exactly alike. Yeah. But so for when I first started, I'm a tough sell, man.
Yeah,
I get that. So my goal, it's the same.
That right
it's the
there.
same
I'm sorry to
concept.
interrupt.
Go ahead.
That right there, that little sentence, and I get that, is the number one thing that I see for all the kids that are listening right now. I want to rewind that part. I know we don't edit, so you don't have to rewind it, but literally and I get that. So much has been like filled in for me from watching from afar, listening to you in this podcast. I believe that what you just said is the most important part of your success. I believe it's the most important part of my success. We have ambition, we have drive, we want to make things happen, but fucking self-awareness. For you to say
Very
blah, blah,
self-aware.
blah, but I get that. For everybody who's listening, when you think the world doesn't get it and you're right and everyone's wrong, you're in deep shit.
I've seen how that goes for
Right?
guys.
Right?
Yeah, I'm very self-aware. So, when I'm doing spots at the Comedy Store, I think maybe because, I'm very closely associated with Joe Rogan and Joey Diaz and Tom Segura and Chris D'Elia, the big dogs. So they would treat me a different way where really I shouldn't have been treated like that. And again, I'm very aware, like, I don't deserve this treatment. So
you were like Turtle in like Entourage, like the halo effect.
Yeah, dude, I was the punter on the football team. Like, I'm on the team, but I don't really deserve a ring. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going through the trenches like these guys.
But getting,
but I'll get there.
The humility of that, like, again, I'm sorry, but I really want to drill this for the people listening on the other side. Not getting high in your own like it's not obvious. You have to kind of know me, but like, no doubt. It is humility that is making my whole fucking engine go.
Yes.
I'm confident as fuck. I got bravado. I fucking go at it,
Yeah,
right?
me too.
But fuck, it is humility. Like, genuinely knowing I don't mean shit.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm very aware.
like, I see it, and it's a fucking superpower. So listen, you may think you're special. You got it. That's awesome. Confidence is everything. You fucking match that up with real fucking self-awareness and humility, which that self-awareness leads to patience. You're like, I get that I'm not everyone's cup of tea yet.
Yeah.
That I'm going to have to earn it. They're going to have to
there.
get to know me under the hood. That's fucking powerful, all these kids.
My main thing was when I got around all those comics and I was doing comedy and I knew it was going to be a tough sell for a lot of people, my number one goal was I'm going to earn the respect of my peers. Yeah. And the only way by doing that is they see me working my ass off.
On the field.
Yeah, so I would go up to the booker, whether it was the Improv or Laugh Factory or the Ice House or the Comedy Store, and go, hey, I'll be a door guy, man. I'll be a door guy,
you.
and I'll work however you want me to work. And I do not care. I'll go on at midnight.
And you knew they were going to say yes. That they look at you like, yeah, you're a door guy, right?
I'll go,
smart.
I'll go on at
smart.
I'll go on at midnight.
It's smart.
Just let me do the work. Let me earn my keep here. And if it's not a fit, if you think I'm bad at this, let me know, man. But I'm telling you, give me an inch.
Humility.
I'm gonna take a mile, man.
Humility.
Yeah.
Tell me about this tour before we get out of here.
Tell you about what?
Your Charlotte and all this stuff that you're about.
Oh, yeah. So, it's a whole new hour after the special. The special is the Gringo Poppy on YouTube, Thick Boy YouTube. And the tour, I'm in Charlotte this Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then I go to Philly, and then it's Portland, and I'm all over, man. But a whole new hour.
Where can people find that in case they want to go check it out?
It's
go to
on
your
you-
social.
where's
the best place to find it?
YouTube. If you type
What's
in
the
Thick
tour
Boy,
from when to when?
nonstop. I mean,
You're going.
Yeah, nonstop.
You love it.
Oh, obsessed. But again, it's a balance because you have kids. So it's like I struggle with this balance where I don't want to miss anything with my kids' life because they're 6 and 2, and then also being the next.
Can I say something to you that might help you?
Sure, please.
There was this young woman in Singapore after a talk I gave. I was with my sister on this trip, and just some of the people from the organizer. We went to this dinner, and there was like 20 people at the table, and this young, maybe she was 25. She talked about her mother being a judge. I think it was Singapore, it might have been Malaysia, and she talked about her mom working every minute. And I was like really listening because obviously, I also want to go at it. And she said, it was hard at times as a kid. She goes, but my mother showed me how to live instead of told me how to live.
Yes.
I really think for a lot of the parents that are listening out there is no work-life balance. There's just work-life balance for you. Mm-hmm. It all looks different. It's all individual. But I do think that a lot of parents in their concern, anxiety of like, am I doing it right?
Yes.
Really miss that nuance that young
Leading
lady
by
told me.
example. Yeah.
Like, it's a really interesting insight that I've like took that nugget and then I've watched for the last 4, 5, 7 years. It really resonates. And I think for people that are on fire, trying to do shit, it's going to impact your kids more than you think. Now, that doesn't mean miss every fucking recital and game and never be there and shit like that.
I'm telling you, I can't. And I was talking to Bert Kreischer. I don't know if you know Bert, but, Bert goes, man, I've missed so much of my kids' childhood. And I said, what I struggle with, Bert, is, so this is the longest I've ever been away from my kids on doing this press tour, and then I go on tour. That's a full week, 7 days. and I need to talk to somebody about it. I get physically ill if I don't see my
Good
kids,
for you.
man. Yeah, it's.
Good.
I
And,
drop
you're,
my.
and you're lucky compared to parents
Agreed.
of different generations. FaceTime's crazy. Like, it's a crazy revelation for parents that are on the road. There's a lot of things. I get it. Good for you. You know yourself. I mean, look, I'm incredibly close to my dad. Like, fucking love
Really?
him. Like, fucking built his business because I loved him. Like, wanted it for him.
Yeah.
And I didn't even see my dad in the first 15 years of my life. Even though he slept in the same roof as me every night. He just left before I woke up and got home after I went to sleep. He worked that much.
Oh, interesting.
And so obviously I'm very affected by that. I'm like, there's just, I know kids who despise their parents or struggle with them,
sure.
and they were with them every day and they went to everything.
Yeah.
So intent and love trumps everything. But that one thing of like, she showed me how to live really struck with me. All right, my team's hovering all over me. I got a ton of shit to do.
Sorry, man. I
no,
really do. I
sorry,
appreciate the
nothing.
time.
I appreciate. I'm enjoying the shit of this.
Yeah.
We'll chop up again.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for
Love
being
you,
on the
man.
show. Love you too,
there
brother.
you go.